Welcome back to 217 South Mills.
Brought to you by Cabin Coffee Altoona, located at 2922 Meadowlark Lane in Altoona, Wisconsin.
Boy, that sounded good, and I'm glad I got my coffee, too. I got my, what did I get this time? Cold-pressed sugar-free turtle with a splash of half and half. Tastes great. And no sugar, which I'm loving. We did mention diet last time.
Yep.
It's a way to have a nice, refreshing drink without the extra sugar. So in this episode, we want to talk about our freshman year at UW. Initial impressions, the school, football, teammates, all that stuff. We're going to review some of the stuff we're going to hit at the surface because in the upcoming episodes, we're digging a little deeper. But my first impressions, like Joe said, I came from a little bit bigger town than he grew up in, which I did, but it was really on top of each other. And similar to Joe, we didn't really travel. So when I got to Madison, we'll talk about scooters and bikes and stuff like that, but I was walking to my classes and holy shit, was it a big campus? Was it intimidating? We'll get into the class schedule too about that. But I'd say the one thing that I think both of us are going to talk about was the main thing we told our high school buddies, because everybody, that's the big question. What's it like at a Division I school? What's it like at a Big Ten school? And the big answer we gave, we got 3 leather couches and they got TVs hanging from the ceiling.
Yep.
Never saw it. It was like being on a spaceship. Like I didn't even know you could hang a TV. And this isn't a flat screen. It's not a TV like we got behind us. It's not one of these like 30-pound TVs. That's probably a 200-pound TV. And they got 3 of them hanging from the ceiling that they put videos on that we could watch TV on. I was just blown away.
Yeah, that was a huge thing. Looking back now and actually going to Camp Randall and seeing some of the stadiums, it's so far away from it is today. Like some of the luxuries that the Division I football players have now is unbelievable. But I remember the same thing. I walked into the locker room, 3 TVs hanging from the ceiling and 3 leather couches. And I'm like, man, I think I made it. I think I made it.
Can't get any better than that at that
No,
point. I mean,
absolutely.
It was like going from, what do they call them? Like a soapbox car to a Lambo.
Yes.
Like that's the difference of like what we had, what we were used to compared to what they have now. I mean, it's just unbelievable. I did bring up school and class schedule. So I'll joke. And, part of this is making fun of ourselves as well.
Yeah.
One of the things that Joe probably commented on a little bit was that I didn't realize in first semester that we had to go to school. I thought a football scholarship, that's my job, that I'm playing football for the University of Wisconsin. And I thought, like we got workouts at 5 o'clock in the morning on days. We're practicing till like 7 o'clock at night. Then you're having dinner. We had study table. We'll talk about that. Where we had to study as a team. And then you get back to your dorm and it's like 9:30, 10 o'clock at night and you're going to bed and you're starting the day over again. So freshman year, I don't know about you, but I didn't really pick my schedule. It was like handed to me like, here are the classes you're going to. I didn't ask for a 7:30 class and an 8:10, 8:50 class. I didn't ask for that stuff. So yeah, first semester, mom, dad, I'm sorry, but yeah, I didn't go to those classes. And I didn't think it was an issue. You know what I mean? I was showing up. I was doing what was asked of me on the football field. We were redshirted that year, but we were busting our butts in practice. We're busting our butts getting strong in the weight room.
Yep.
And then I go home over winter break. We played in the
Copper Bowl
that year in Tucson. And had a great time that was the one time that we weren't playing. And I think did we suit up on game day?
We suited up on game day.
But they knew they weren't putting us in the game.
Right.
And we knew that too. So it was just a vacation for us that we had to practice.
Yep.
And everything was good. After that, go home on winter break, still having a good time. Now I'm coming back, seeing my buddies home from college, playing at a Big Ten school, until I didn't realize they send report cards home, and my parents get a report card. I'm like, oh shit. And then I get back to school and I'm just like, how bad is this going to go? And I get called into Coach Alvarez's office. And needless to say, I went to high school where it was a lettering system or number. It was grades, or the grades were like 92, 95, stuff like that. Right. I didn't understand the 4.0. I had to like do the conversion in my head. I never saw it before. And I had a 0.8. So not that good. And for you that don't know, for most colleges, you have to have a 2.0 or above to be eligible to play based on the coach's requirements. So Coach Alvarez basically told me I think he wanted a 2.5 or higher out of me for the remaining time, or he said we're not going to buy you a plane ticket. We're going to send you back to Scranton on a bus. So I learned right away school's part of it.
Yeah. And I was the exact polar opposite of Bill.
Sure.
I did all the things football related, and then I went to every class. So much that my friend Bill here would bust my balls a little bit. He's like, it's a lecture of 200 people, Joe. Nobody's going to know whether you're there or not. I'm like, well, I'm 6'6", 300 pounds wearing all red. I'm pretty sure they're going to know if I was there or I was not there. So I was not smart enough to be at the University of Wisconsin. Like, that was a much higher institute of learning than I ever thought that I would be able to even go to. So I knew that I had to work doubly hard over everything, just work harder than everybody else just to get mediocre grades. So I was at every class, even when Bill wasn't there. He was still sleeping, but I was in the class. I was doing the things, and I'd show up in a lecture of 300 people, and I would sit there and take notes and do all the things. And so what people don't realize.
I want to interrupt for a second.
Oh, go ahead.
I think you were sitting there in a lecture at 300. Were you really taking notes and learning?
I was taking the notes.
Okay,
I was
so
doing
I didn't
the
know
things.
How to take notes, and I didn't know how to learn. So to me, it was like, why sit there and not get anything in when I could be getting a rest for my job of football?
Yeah, well, see, and this is why you are the way that you are.
And
I'm just saying.
I hear you.
I'm just saying.
And here's the funny thing too, just so the audience knows, we both do have degrees.
Yep.
But we both did go about it in a little bit of a different way.
Yes, we did.
Which that'll come up down the road.
Yep.
A couple more episodes. But yeah, I will say Joe did get me going to class more. We did have a lot of similar classes.
Yep.
And Joe got me showing up more often than not.
And I think, how about the headhunters that would come to class? I think we definitely need to hit on that. So
yes.
So if you had like 5 football players in a class, what they would do is they would send somebody from the athletic department, football office, that would come into this lecture and do a head count to make sure that you were in the class.
They'd have players' names with a photo, so they could look in case it's a freshman that they're not. Usually at practice you got a piece of tape with your last name, but they got a photo of everybody's face that should be in the class.
Absolutely. So it looked really, really bad. So here's how I played this out in my head, and I've used this to this day. So you have people that are our size, 5 or 10 of us in this lecture hall. The headhunter walks in, does a head count, and leaves. And then 7 or 8 large human beings wearing all football red. Once he leaves, they give it like 2 to 5 minutes, and they stand up and leave the lecture hall in the middle of this professor who dedicated their life to this study of whatever they're teaching, Bill.
They're getting paid good money, though.
Yes.
They are.
And then you walk out, and you're not quiet human beings as you leave, and I'm the only Lone Ranger sitting there by myself, yet I'm still lumped into the football players who just left, yet I was the one sitting in class. I was the guy.
I felt like I was Tom Cruise in what are these movies? What are the movies that Tom Cruise does nowadays?
Mission Impossible?
I felt like I was Tom Cruise in Mission Impossible. Like I was a little midget, like a skinny little midget, just escaping with the other 7 skinny little midgets. But yes, when I learned to stay back, so I did learn throughout my career and it was mostly GAs, grad assistant coaches that would do the checking. And what I learned was they also learned the system that guys, after they checked, would leave. So sometimes they'd start checking, then they'd go out and do some work for 10 or 20 minutes, then come back in and check again.
Correct.
I got a funny story later on about senior year where my soon-to-be after college brother-in-law was a GA, and I basically informed him, here are my classes, do not check these classes, and told him where he can go and where he can't go. But yeah, it was part of the system, and bottom line, you got to go to class. You got to go to class, you got to get your grades, you got to be eligible, and you're getting a free education out of it. You might as well get the education to better yourself later on in life. Because whether you do play football or not, football is not going to last forever. We both know that. Nope. We've had longer experiences than others, but still, it stops at some point.
And just the idea, like the campus was so freaking big. A shout out to my dad. I told him I needed a scooter, and it had to be 50 cc or below, so I could park it in the bike ramp. Otherwise, I needed a Class M endorsement, which I did not have. So my dad found a 1983 or 82 Honda Aero, and that's what chauffeured me around. And picture to paint the picture of what that looked like. we are very large human beings riding a very, very small scooter. Yet we had like our own gang because all the football players were riding scooters. Now, the rumor was, oh, the university bought you guys your scooters. No, no, we can ask my father. He purchased mine. But it was one of those things where you always knew the football players were going to class or not going to class because of where their scooters were.
Absolutely. And for somebody that we need to post a picture of just a general like Honda scooter.
Absolutely.
So everybody gets the idea of this. Sorry, I don't know why we got all dark there, but you can still see our faces. But with the scooters, if you ask somebody what a weight, ideal weight for a scooter is, it's probably like 185.
Yeah.
It's the size person that they expect to be riding on a scooter.
Mm-hmm.
And you'd have a bunch of 300-pounders riding the scooter. And better yet, I was one of the guys that didn't have a scooter or a bike. So I walked to most of my classes. But then those days where it's raining or 5:30 in the morning or a foot of snow on the ground, you get guys like Joe or my other, our other old line buddies, Casey, Dave, feel sorry for me, pull over, and I'd hop on the back of a one-person scooter. So the scooter that we're describing is probably meant for a 185-pound man.
Yep.
Would have two 300-plus pound college guys riding
600-plus pounds.
600-plus pounds on this little 49cc scooter driving around. So I wish there was a picture of that. There were so many of us that did that double piggyback. And just imagine Joe, too. And it was always great because Joe was riding up front. It was like we were riding a Harley, but it's not a Harley. And me with my arms behind him. Maybe we should get on the Harley and replicate it someday just to give the audience a scene of what it was like 30 years ago.
Perhaps we should do that. And another thing, too, folks, is we drove these all year long. And even in the snow.
Tell them how you'd have to go down Bascom Hill. Bascom Hill for Wisconsin, and I know you guys don't really understand what a mountain is, but Bascom Hill, I'll give it, is a good size hill. It's long, and it's got a good enough of a degree that it's steep. So let's just put 3 inches of snow on the ground. You're on a little two-wheel scooter. You lean one way or the other, you're wiping out and sliding. So what did you have to do to get through the snow?
And before I even touch on that, you have to understand, like, you're going to ask me, well, why don't you just walk? Because I've been up since like 6 a.m. I've already lifted thousands of pounds. I've already ran to the point where I've thrown up before everybody else has gone to class. I've already have a day of work in. I have practice after this. I am not going to exert any more energy than I have to because I got to conserve that for practice. I'm not walking.
Yeah. So you hit the nail on the head. And we're going to go into like workouts, pre-workouts, post-workouts, post-workout recovery. We would actually break the ice on an ice tub to get in. Like a lot of you see this now on social media. Yeah. All of a sudden, it's like stuff we did 30 years ago is like, oh, if you want to lead a healthy life, you should get an ice bath every day. Well, that's what we had to do to be able to practice. If you didn't do the ice bath, your legs felt like spaghetti noodles.
Yep.
So we're getting in an ice bath for 10 to 15 minutes so our legs feel, so we could perform at practice the next day. So to answer anybody's question that says, why are you riding a scooter? Yeah, because you don't want to exert 1 ounce of energy more than you have to because they're going to get it out of you on the football.
Absolutely. So basically what you do, folks, is you ride your scooter, you put your feet down as skis, and when that back end of that scooter skids out on the ice, you push that foot down, and you maintain your balance by applying pressure to each your right or your left foot, or both, depending on where you are slipping. And I did wipe my scooter out on University Avenue heading to the stadium. It was an ice patch. I put my feet were down for balance. The car, it was a Bronco, actually, not a new one, an old Bronco that dynamited the brakes in front of me. I locked up the scooter and I was sliding into it. And what happened is I laid it down on its side. I moved the scooter out of the way. I went underneath the Bronco. I got my jacket caught on underneath, and I got drugged down University Avenue a little bit. After I got undone, I stood up, brushed myself off, walked back to my scooter. Traffic was stopped because they saw it happen. Got back on it, fired it up, put my feet down on skis, and
did the Bronco even know?
Didn't even know.
That's awesome.
Didn't even know.
Maybe the Bronco's going to listen to this story someday and be like, I thought I felt a thud.
Yeah, maybe.
He probably thought he ran over an ice block or something. And he's got an old lineman sliding into his.
I was a little upset. They got a little bit of ice road rash on me, and I'm like, that's just another injury I got to deal with. But hey, I mean, but it did happen. So we rode our scooters all year long, and I look back now, and probably not the smartest thing. I'm not sure if they still do that, but that's what we did.
Riding them all year long, leaving them parked wherever.
Yep.
It's that time of the show again where we'd like to thank our sponsor, Cabin Coffee Altoona. Cabin Coffee Altoona is located at 2922 Meadowlark Lane, located just off the Highway 53 River Prairie exit. Stop in and try my favorite drink, the cold press, with sugar-free turtle flavoring and a splash of half and half. It's a drink that you'll love the flavor without the sugar that all other drinks come with. So come in today, order a cold press sugar-free turtle. Heck, by now you could probably go in and call it Bill's drink. See you at Cabin Coffee Altoona. Everything's always better at the cabin. My scooter my senior year was a hand-me-down that I bought off a former teammate that it was hot wired. So I had it for a year, didn't even have a key.
Huh?
So I was lazy, so I didn't do a lock. I would drive it to a building. And I didn't normally park it where the bikes park. I used to drive up to the front door and park it right in front of the front door, which was not supposed to happen.
Which coincides Bill not going to school because he never followed the rules. So there you go. So doesn't go to class, and then when he does go to class, parks illegally. Hey, there you go.
But I'm parked closer to the door so I could get in earlier, get a seat up front where I could pay attention. But don't shake your head. I did it. With regards to studying, study table is another deal that we even reminisced about this the other day. Like I almost forgot. So freshman year, everybody has to go to study table, which is basically you have practice, you shower after practice, and we'd have training table, which was eating as a team.
Yep.
So the coaches would eat with us. We all ate as one big team. Coach Alvarez did have a cool demand he put on his coaches where I think it was during the season, there was one night a week, a Monday or Tuesday, that the wives had to show up for dinner as well and bring the kids. So the coaches would have an extra day of the week that they got to have dinner with their spouses and their families. We got to interact with them. But we ate dinner together every single night of the week. That was right after practice. Then when you were done with dinner at 7 o'clock started study table. So for every freshman at the university, we had to go to study table where you had to study for 2 hours at the University of Wisconsin. In the football offices, we were in the main auditorium. Was where we had study table. And it's just basically 2 hours you got to study. And we had the GAs, the grad assistants, were basically in charge of it, making sure guys aren't talking, making sure guys are studying. Of course, you put 30, 18-year-olds in a room, you're going to get guys being like, can I go to the bathroom and hanging out for a half hour or trying to leave early. And so the two best study table people we had, I had to be in it 2 years. I think you were in it 2 years as well, right?
Were we all in it 2 years?
See, Casey got out of it, which maybe I should. So Casey Robach, if anybody's down to Madison, somehow he got out of it. So hit him up and question why. I don't know if he paid somebody off or what, but we had to be in it 2 years. Our second year was Mike. I forget Mike's last name. He used to be an old lineman at Wisconsin, and Jeff Worth. Worthy. I'm still close with Worthy. Worthy's over in the central Wisconsin area, and he was one of our study table instructors. And I still remember the day when I graduated, I introduced my parents to him and said, Jeff Worth helped me graduate because I wanted to leave study table. I was fed up because now it's our second year. So now we're playing in games. We're playing, getting action. We're studying more for football, where I felt like he was trying to get too much out of me studying for school, where I just felt like the pendulum was going too far towards school. I got to take it back towards football. And I threatened to leave the one night. And me being a bigger guy, and you didn't even comment in the last episode. I said like 6'3", 6'4", and I sort of sold you on that. So we'll get into height when we get to the Combines episode. But I am bigger than Jeff Worth, and he'll admit that to this day. And I looked down on him and said, Jeff, we're leaving. And Jeff bowed up in front of the doors and wouldn't let me leave. And I don't know if it was because I was tired, that I was like, you know what, I don't want to fight him. But for a moment, I was ready to fight him. Jeff basically said, shut up and go sit down and study. And I did. And I was just like, all right, this is part of it. I got to do it. But it was just funny that I bowed up to him for a second, and now we go ice fishing together. We hang out, we go to dinner, stuff like that. But we still reminisce about that day. But yeah, that was a pain in the butt, that study table, because you don't get back until 9:30 at night. And like people are like, "Oh, you're in college, you're staying." No, I want to go to bed. Because 5:30 comes like that. And we both know, and I'll let you touch on first what happens if you show up late, because that was our number one fear in college.
And I still have problems with showing up on time. I have to be early or I am late. To this day is hardwired into my system. I turn angry real quick when I'm on time, and if I'm not 15 minutes early, I'm late, and that's in my opinion, it drives my wife crazy. But that's the way it is. And then one more thing, a shout out to Jeff Worth. code name the White Rat, in case you were wondering, the White Rat. And he's a good guy. I still enjoy his company. I don't talk to him as much as I should, but just a great guy and helped us out. But yeah, so being late, is that what we're talking about now? Being late?
Being late, just that fear of being late.
Oh, my gosh.
Whether it's coaches or John Detman.
Yep.
John Detman was our strength coach. I showed up late once to a workout, and I wasn't thinking. It was like a 5:30 workout, got there like 5:50, and I said, my alarm clock screwed up. And you would have thought I cursed my mother out in front of him the way he yelled at me about disrespecting my alarm clock, that it wasn't my alarm clock's fault. It was my fault.
Yep.
And don't blame it on the alarm clock. And it was like a dissertation for like 5 minutes.
Absolutely.
I'm just like ready to cry, like, just let me go work out. I know this is going to be hell. Let me get through it. And he's still yelling at me to not talk bad about my alarm clock. My alarm clock didn't do anything wrong. I'm like, the alarm clock's perfect. It's not the alarm clock's fault. Like, just put me through hell and let me get over it. But yeah, it was fear every day. You're not late. Our freshman year, we had a meeting, and I tell this to everybody. I told it during football and after football when I got into sales. We had a team meeting that started at 3 o'clock. And obviously we're freshmen. We all get there early because we're nervous. At 2:45, Coach Alvarez gets up. It's double doors. He deadbolts the doors. At 2:45, meeting's supposed to start at 3. He just sits back down. We're all just sort of joking, telling stories, whatever. Guys start knocking on, banging on the door. He wouldn't open the door.
Yep.
And at 3 o'clock, he unlocked it, opened it a crack, and said, when the meeting's at 3 o'clock, it starts 15 minutes early. If you're not 15 minutes early, you're late. Closed the door, deadbolted it, and he started the meeting. So we had that embedded in us real early. You don't screw around with being on time. Being on time is being there early.
The ongoing joke, and it was discussed amongst the offensive linemen, and I was never late to a workout, Bill. Never once. I'm seeing a pattern here with you not going to school, with you parking your scooter illegally, and being late to a workout.
If my alarm clock didn't screw up, I would have been.
I'm calling JD right now, and
he'll put me back on the stairmaster.
He should. But never late, and it got to the point where it became such a driving factor. I would arrive to the stadium probably 30 minutes before the 15-minute that I needed to be there. But if for some reason I was going to be late, we discussed this. I would rather drive my freaking scooter into a brick wall or get into a motor vehicle accident that I would cause. That I would cause harm to myself. Yes, traffic, because I'm not going to be late.
Yes,
because it was that, the idea of being late, and it was so it was just.
It'd be easier to explain if you're in the hospital with a cast.
100%.
If I'm in the hospital, my leg's in a cast. Can't really get mad at me. It was the car. It wasn't me.
If I have road rash on my face, you know what? I was in an accident, and here's my proof. It's right here, right here. So that was a common discussion. Never late, ever late. And hey, Bill, what would happen if we were late? Tell him the punishment.
Yeah, basically for working out with JD, it was getting on the Stairmaster and doing it till you puked.
Yeah.
So you would be on there, like Joel talked about, like he put it down like with weight wise, like you were a 180 pound person, and you just do it until you puke. Keep your heels off the ground and just go until you puke. And then when you puke, now it's time to start the workout.
And every time those paddles hit the ground, because you're sprinting at a 300-pound man, and the Stairmaster set for a 150-pound person, every time those paddles hit the ground, start over.
Yeah. That was always, and I still have fear to this day. We saw a couple of our teammates that were late, and you just look at them with such sorrow for them. Like, I feel so bad. Empathy, yeah. I feel so bad that guy's going through it, but you're like, he was late. I don't want to be late. I don't want to do that.
Nope. And it's carried over into, one, my professional life, and number two, my personal life. Like, I could lose a leg on the way to work and still crawl here and be on time. Like, that's how serious, like, that's what such an impact it had in my life. Like, I'm never late.
Yeah, it's trained in us. With that being said, I think a couple of the last things we were going to touch on with this episode was one, roommates early on freshman year. And I do like, the last note I have is Badger Max and protein drinks. We need to talk about what we had back then and compared to what they have now.
Yes.
So I'll start us off with roommates. So we had to be in the dorms for 2 years. It was a Coach Alvarez rule at Wisconsin. Students are required to be in the dorms for 1 year. Football players, at least through Coach Alvarez's rule, was 2 years in the dorms. I stayed in more of an actual dorm on campus. Joe was in a dormitory that was just off campus on State Street. Very similar, but a little bit different.
Oh.
My roommate for my first 2 years was Casey Robach, who ended up becoming the starting center for the last 4 years of our career. Casey and I became really good friends. But the funny thing, and I know Casey's going to watch this, and I know his wife Nikki's going to watch this too, was I also had Nikki as a roommate, Casey's girlfriend at the time, now his wife. And I love them both, treat them like brother and sister. But yeah, it was basically the three of us in the dorm, going to bed at night, waking up in the morning, going to get meals at the same time. So yeah, we got to become close really quick when you have three people in a room that small. And just learning the timing on getting changed, when you should walk in, when you shouldn't walk in, certain things you don't want to walk in on.
Yep.
But yeah, that was my excitement with roommates.
So I was rooming with Chris Janik, Tank. Shout out to Tank. To Tank's training facility in Granite City, Illinois. He's still out there doing it, still killing it, still just a beast. Went through some health issues here the last couple of years, but he's rebounded, and we're friends on Facebook, and he's turning back into his former glory. Just a stud.
Speaking of that, we need to get the show down to Granite City.
Yes.
Do an episode in Tank's training facility.
I agree.
Down to Granite City.
100%.
Yeah.
Haven't seen that guy
Tank, get it ready.
We're way too long.
A trip to get down there.
Yeah. So I lived with him for 2 years, and then but I didn't have to worry about walking in on certain people. But if you think about the size of the dorms, guys, so my daughter's in college right now. We just moved her in here their first year in college. The size of the dorms, and then you have human beings that are like our size. There is no freaking room anywhere in there. Nowhere to go. And the amount of, and it's always hot because there's no air conditioning in them. And the amount of BTUs that bodies our size kick off can turn that little tiny dorm room into a sauna in the matter of minutes. It's crazy what you remember.
And you're dealing with people I still remain friends on social media and stuff with guys that were on my floor.
Oh.
But that's the funny thing too is, and I forget how your floors were in the towers, but in the dorms, it was Casey and I on our floor. We were roommates. Everybody else was a normal student. And there was differences there where, freshman year, when we redshirted, we didn't get to go to the hotel with the football team. So we're sleeping in the dorms on a Friday night.
Yep.
Well, Friday night at UW-Madison, everyone's partying, everyone's drinking, everyone's having a good old time. And we're trying to get up at 7 o'clock in the morning because we got to get to the stadium for a football game. So it's also that interaction with civilian students, as we'd call it.
Absolutely.
My joke was getting ready for the Copper Bowl, and then our second year, the Outback Bowl, was during finals. And I was like, oh, you guys actually study here in this, there was a room down by the elevator. And I'm like, I always thought that was like a hangout room, but that's where they went to study. And Casey and I think it was our second year, we studied one night in that room, and everybody was all our dorm mates were impressed. Look at Ferrario and Robach, they're studying. Wow. And we're like, we didn't even know about this room. I think it was December when we found it. And it was right next to the elevators. I didn't know what it was. But
no, we were also amongst the general population of students that were going to school there. And we had completely different schedules. And to the person I'm still angry about that would pull the fire alarm in the middle of the night. Come on. And I think, I don't know I think we're on the 8th floor. Sounds familiar. And the elevator shut down and having to walk downstairs in the middle of the night. When you got to be up in an hour and a half, just miserable. But yep,
here's a quick PSA. If you know anybody that pulled the fire alarm at the University of Wisconsin during the late 90s, send their address via email. Absolutely. And I vow I'll go throw a rock through their house window just to pay them back for waking everybody else up and getting them out of the dorms.
Absolutely, 100%. They're bad people.
They are. They're horrible people. Horrible people. The last thing we were going to talk about was Badger Max and protein drinks.
Yep.
So we wanted to talk about what we thought was really cool in the weight room and locker room and the difference what it is today. So Badger Max, and Joe, you fill me in with what I missed here. Badger Max is, so who is it that came out with Florida? Somebody in Florida invented Gatorade.
Yeah, because the Florida Gators.
Florida Gators, Gatorade.
Yeah.
So instead of just being like, all right, we're going to pay for Gatorade in our deal, somebody at the University of Wisconsin comes up with Badger Max, which is basically our version of Gatorade.
If I think about it, I can taste it.
Oh, I can taste the red.
Yeah, it was amazing.
The red's the best. Yeah.
It was amazing.
So we had Badger Max, and then they had tons of protein.
Metrics.
Put the protein in with the Badger Max, separate, whatever, and it was free.
Yep.
That was the other kickers. Free protein, free Badger Max. Occasionally, you'd have like bottled drinks that you could throw in your backpack to take. And of course, we're taking all this stuff. So if you got like a big water bottle, you're putting it in the Badger Max machine.
Yes, you are.
Filling that bottle up so you have it back at your dorm.
Yep.
And we loved it. Occasionally, there'd be bars.
Yep.
We had
protein bars.
Oh, you see that box out. That goes quick.
Yep.
Guys are filling that up. Those are snacks on the weekends. Those are meals on the weekends.
Yep.
Today, totally different.
It's a buffet every day.
24 hours a day.
24-hour day buffet. Like I don't want to say Vegas, but you know what? Like any buffet you go around here, it's like I can't even. I walked in there. I can't even comprehend the amount of food that they get now. And we were excited about Badger Max, metric shakes, and occasionally a protein bar. Yeah.
Now, here's another explanation. So being on scholarship, once again, an assumption that I made that was incorrect. They tell you your room's paid for, room, board, school, and books is paid for. Oh. Well, in that is food. Well, I thought it's paid for. It's not. When you're, especially when you're in the dorms, you get a card and you get X amount of dollars on that card. Well, I didn't know that until my card ran out like 2 months in the first semester. I'm out. Now I'm calling my parents who don't have a ton of money to begin with and think their son's on scholarship where they don't have to pay for anything other than plane flights. Every time I want to go home and see my family, I'm like, hey, I need money. They go, for what? I go, for food.
Yeah.
So now, here's where it gets fun. So now when kids quit, us remaining players are almost fighting to see who gets their card because we want their money to spend on food.
Yep.
Take that. And I got to give a shout out to Vanessa. There was this beautiful girl, Vanessa, that worked at Pop's Cafeteria in 1996 and 1997. Vanessa, if you're still out there, hit us up. I'm going to give you like a $50 or $100 gift card for Cabin Coffee Altoona. You were awesome. I go through, when I switched from defense to offense, Coach Huber goes, can you gain, or whatever, 30 pounds in the next 3 months? I go, absolutely. So I'd go through the line. I'd have chicken breasts. I'd have cheeseburgers. I'd have grilled cheese. I'd have this, that, the other, just a plethora. I'd walk through with 2 trays. And Vanessa would give me a look, and I'd hand her a chocolate milk. She'd scan a chocolate milk, give me a kiss on the cheek, and be like, you have a good day.
Are you serious?
I go, Vanessa, you have a good day too.
Well,
and I'd go through 35 cents a meal. That's what I paid, and I got to walk out with anything I wanted. So Vanessa, she was awesome, awesome. She helped me get through freshman, sophomore year by helping me out. But yeah, that money dealing with food, it was crazy. So back to players today, Joe's saying about this buffet. If we were at the University of Wisconsin today or any Division I program today, my parents would be like, is he still alive? Because I haven't heard from him because he's not asking for money.
Absolutely.
I don't need the scholarship money. I could live in the locker room and just eat the food and the drinks that they provide for free to these athletes on a daily basis. I don't need anything. I don't need restaurants. I don't need cafeterias. They have so much there. There's no reason to leave. Joe, we both saw. They have sleep pods.
I sleep pods.
Like this whole Ocho Cinco deal with like saying it.
Yes.
Respect it, but that was back in the day. Today, coaches would have to kick us. I'd be like, why do I even want to pay rent?
I would have to
keep my suitcase in my locker.
Absolutely.
I'll sleep in the sleep pod. And no one's using that at night. Let me just sleep there.
And they do your laundry.
You got a shower.
You got a shower.
Hot tub.
Absolutely. Food.
Absolutely.
I don't even know what else. Yeah.
Why would we leave?
You wouldn't have to.
Let's do like a sleep in, have 110 guys just staying there every night.
I agree.
Why even pay for the dorms?
You'll always know where we are. Safety in numbers. And on a side note, Bill, I know Coach Hughes asked you to gain 30 pounds, in 3 months.
Oh, that was the best.
You probably, I think it's time to let that go. You made your promise. You fulfilled it.
He hasn't asked me to let it go, though. He asked me to gain it, and I'm not letting Hughes down.
And we're still gaining it. We're still gaining it. There you go.
I'm just trying to keep him happy. He's a guy I don't want to upset. I'm not upsetting Coach Hughes. He asked me to gain it. I gained it. That's the way we're going.
And then one more thing we have to touch on is, like, how about the weight room, man? Like the weight room at Wisconsin. So DC Everest weight room, when we were there, it was just a small little weight room. Everything was outdated. It was cramped. It was way too. There was not enough. There was too much equipment. Not enough space for you to even do any of the major things. But it produced really good athletes. Walking into the weight room that John Detman's weight room was eye-opening with that place. It was just unbelievable.
Like 3 Gold's gym on steroids.
Absolutely. It was unbelievable.
My weight room was really similar to West Scranton. It was a hand-me-down weight room. I even remember, I think it was after my sophomore, junior year, Coach one Saturday during the summer, got like 6 of us together with vehicles. We went to a gym that closed down and my coach got him to donate all the stuff to us. So we're taking like benches and weights, taking it back to our weight. This guy closed down because everything's so poor. It's duct tape on the benches and stuff. Yeah, get to Wisconsin. First off, everything's red and white.
Yes.
So every bench is red. All the metal pipe, stainless steel is white. Just huge. What was it, like 8 deadlift racks, 8 squat racks, 8 benches,
everything,
8 inclines, like just so much of everything. And then that's in the 90s. And it was good enough to win Rose Bowls.
Yes, it was.
And then fast forward to today, it's like a spaceship going in some of these weight rooms. Like the programs, they have the video cameras. They have cameras that are watching guys with a computer that's saying when they squat, what percentage to parallel they're at. Where we got John Detman sitting on a chair being like, get your ass lower.
Yeah.
Your ass ain't low enough.
You're not below 90. You ain't squatting, son.
Yes.
It's amazing, too, the beauty of that weight room, yet how much torture was involved. Like the beauty of it when you walk in there and how cool it is and just sprawling weights and all the equipment and just how painful that place ended up being.
Well, I even remember the last time we got invited back, I think it was for the Coach Alvarez, the field dedication. I had my kids with me and I'm walking down into the weight room with my son and I'm excited to show him. He had probably seen it a long time ago before it got remodeled. So I'm excited to see it. I'm excited to show it to him. But as I walk in, you still get those butterflies in your stomach. One, am I late? Like I'm walking in the weight room. Am I on time?
Am I on time?
Am I going to get yelled at? And 2, then you see it and you remember all that pain. One-legged squats. For any teammates are listening, it was one-legged squats, chain squats, chain bench, the circuit at the end of that summer workout where you had to do that like 45 minutes, like just hell. But we did what we had to do to get to where we went. And, we would all do it 10 times over just to have that experience again. And it was the work that was needed. It was necessary to accomplish the goals that we had set for ourselves.
Absolutely. I would do it yesterday.
Yeah.
Well, I think that wraps up this episode. Again, we want to thank our sponsor, Cabin Coffee Altoona. And tune in next time, folks, for our next episode.
See you guys soon. Thank you. Thank you for listening to Joe and I today. We hope you enjoyed your time with us. If you like what you heard, please give 217 South Mills a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts. Go tell your friends about us. Like and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, X, TikTok, and YouTube.
I'd like to thank Cabin Coffee Altoona for sponsoring us. Everything is always better at the cabin. See you next time. And remember, folks, red ass to run.